any road win in this conference is a big deal, and you couldn't ask for a better night than tonight. And I mean that on all phases of it. I mean, a beautiful night, a Friday night, great crowd, a great environment, and for us, we came out and we played pretty darn well. In particular, in the first half, we had been slow, and there's not one thing that we said that we did different to come out the first half and play a lot better. But something that, just like last week, we talked about turnovers, and you kind of emphasize some things. You don't change what it is you do, and you make some little adjustments here and there. And these guys listen, and I think that's probably what I'm proud about more than anything is that they had heard some of the things and they had recognized some of the situations we had in the first few games and didn't play well to start with. And we came out and, like I said, I think we scored touchdowns on our first 3 drives. I think I don't know what we were on third down in our first few drives, but we played really well. I think that they made it a game. In that second half, they got some things rolling and they made some plays down the field. And, there's a lot of things we got to do better. But I think that for us to go on the road, our first time of, go on the road with this team and winning a ball game, and this was big for us. So we got a bye week coming up, which is unique. There's nothing like winning before you go into a bye week. Playing a Friday night game is unique as well. But I think what I just told those guys in the locker room is, you don't get healthy on a bye week, but you can get your mind right. And for us, we got a lot of things we got to continue to grow in, and we got to use this coming week really, really well in many different ways. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the deal is. I don't know that it looks good, and they're hurting in there. If we lose him for a while, it'll be tough. He's not just a great football player for us. He's not just a great tailback. He's a bit of the heart and soul of some of the things that we do, and because of all the things he's gone through, all the ups and downs and the injuries, and to have the attitude that he has, he's a big part. If he can't play for a while, he'll still be a really big part of what it is that we do.
Not saying it's perfect, but offensively, is that a little bit what you kind of thought?
Yeah. I mean, we can nitpick on some things, right? I mean, we gotta score some touchdowns. We don't want to kick as many field goals in the red zone, but that's about the only thing. Not turnovers, but penalties. I think that give them some credit. They drew us off sides probably 3 or 4 times tonight. But that's the rhythm, I think when some people ask the questions about what do you guys want to be, and I say we want to be balanced. 195 and 193. I mean, you can't script it any better. And we made some really big throws there in the second half when we had to, and it wasn't like we were just going to, pound the ball and just run it, because, people today, they could not allow that to happen. And these guys definitely weren't going to allow it just to run that thing out in the second half. So we had to continue to execute, and I thought they did a great job.
Is he here?
I don't know if he's back yet. I think they ran him over to get some X-rays and things like that. Hopefully he'll be back over there by the time we get back.
What did you just think of Tanner's decision making tonight, especially when he had to go off script or even read and react to some of the run game stuff?
No, that's where Tanner, I think, sometimes is best. And they're two quarterbacks that I think you saw some of their versatility. Obviously we're talking about Tanner with ours, but his ability to make things happen, his ability to move around, his ability to buy time is really, really big. Obviously he had a great big run down there in the red zone for a touchdown on a drop 8 situation. That he's a threat in many different ways, and he ran it probably a few more times than we had all year. Some of them were designed in some ways, a couple option plays, but I think that, from what they were doing defensively, they make it difficult in a lot of things you got to do, and sometimes you got to add the quarterback in there a little bit.
I think the offensive line kind of took a step forward today, especially pass protection in the middle of the field. It seemed like they had a lot of time.
I think he did, and I think that there are some of those situations. There are 3-man rush, but in the 3-man rush, sometimes it's just about being relentless, right? Sometimes you can relax and let up, but that's what I think they did a great job. They didn't. When they brought 5, they did a really good job on the 5. When they brought 6, the backs were in there. I think they did a really good job on that. And I think all in all, from where I was standing, I thought the protection was probably one of the the best things that we did all night. There's some things we got to do better, but protection was really good.
What went into the decision to go for 2 there on that last touchdown?
It's the book, to be honest with you. I don't not like we're trying to do anything different other than based on what the score is and what it tells you to do. Don't think twice about it. It's not a negative thing. It's just, hey, based on the score of the game and the time that's left, the book says to go for 2. And, sometimes I go against the book. But, the way they were moving the football, we had to be smart about what it is we're doing, I thought they did a really good job at moving the ball. We did some good things at making some stops there in the red zone and getting a couple turnovers. But it never felt like, hey, we're in good shape. So we had to kind of go by the book.
Obviously, I think you mentioned the other day that Hallman played a ton of snaps. Wanted to try to get him a little break, but obviously playing for you right now, regardless.
I think he's doing a really good job. I mean, we got to go back and watch, but he's the one guy that doesn't roll a whole lot over there. I think we roll with Alex into the boundary a little bit more, and we've got to give him some opportunities to roll as well. He came up big tonight. He made some big plays. He obviously had a pick, a really good play. We got to work on his return skills a little bit. I don't know. They said he stepped out of bounds about the 45. I thought maybe we had an opportunity to take that thing a little bit further. But he has been very consistent in everything he's done. We'll nitpick. I think there's some things out there in the field you got to really tackle well. And, but I think that's some of the things that make it difficult when you have to play out there all the time.
Were you encouraged by the fast start tonight? Just getting out early. Were you encouraged by seeing?
There's no doubt. I mean, the way we started with three touchdowns, and really the way we played on third down, I think in that first 3 series was what we needed. And like I said, it wasn't something we did different. Last week we hadn't had a turnover, and then all of a sudden we get 6, and it wasn't like some magic thing we did. We just continued to push, continue to harp on the things that we got to do and the consistency in which we do them. And I think it starts with protection. I think it starts with the ability to play well on third down, and I think we did that especially well in that first half.
People love evaluating this defense. Last week we were 14 points for a lot of yards. This week 17 points for a lot of yards.
I know.
Where's your comfort level?
It's not overly comfortable. I think that's kind of why we had to go with a book in the situation. We're figuring some of those things out on who we are and how we got to continue to grow. We're finding ways to play with our best 11 guys on the football field. And I think that's where, in some ways we're still trying to figure that out. And you see us bounce back and forth from 4-man to 3-man. But I think, maybe a little bit different mentality than I'm used to, when we weren't a bend but don't break team, and right now we're a little bit better in some of those situations. But it's big plays. I think that's where we gotta do a better job at tackling well in space. We got to do a better job at putting pressure on the quarterback, and then when we do put pressure, we gotta be able to contain him. He ran around way too much tonight for us.
I know stuff without watching the tape. What do you think led to some of those bigger runs that the offense that Purdue was able to get on you guys?
Yeah, there's a couple of those are third down runs that. We're in a different, we're in a pass rush mentality, and not the smartest situation, but you got to give them some credit for running the ball on some of those, those spots. We did the same thing. I think we had a couple pretty long runs on some of those third down where you got the mentality to rush the quarterback. So there's some things we have. That's what we're talking about. We got to be able to do better. But when they get you going a little bit, they have some pretty good balance to what they do as well. He was able to play. He had just, probably was, I'm saying on the back, but he, this week of practice, but he was able to go. It wasn't that he was out. It wasn't on the depth chart. He was in there later in the game. We're just, we're rolling through on some situations and some things, and he didn't play as much.
I'm guessing the bye week, if you had your druthers, would be kind of right in the middle of things, right? But I guess my question is it okay with a new staff and a lot of players that kind of take stock in the first 4 weeks?
Yeah, there is. I mean, whenever it's dealt to you, you gotta figure out how it's going to work for you. And for us, this was a huge night. I didn't dwell upon it. Before the week, I didn't dwell upon it as we got later in the week about, hey, what it's like to come off a bye week and to have this feeling and for ways to grow. I knew it was incredibly important for us going into a bye week. But I think for us in particular, and just looking at it from afar, before we ever got to the bye week, you kind of set a schedule so that based on how things are going, you don't knee-jerk react to what it is that you need to do. But we knew going into this, and we knew after, before we even started the season, that we were going to have to use our bye week, maybe a little bit different than maybe they've used it in the past. But we got to find ways. We got to continue to grow.
What does it say with Dad? This
strip sack and whatnot. Like, how do you coach those situations where Caden comes through with the strip sack and then there's that lull and then there's a strip after?
Well, I think we learned from the last time that happened. We kind of relaxed. Our guys went and sat down on the bench, and then all of a sudden they overturned it, and we went back out there and gave up a couple big plays and a touchdown. So I think for our guys in particular, I just kept saying it's their ball. We got to be ready. It's 3rd and 10. They're going to overturn this. It's their ball. It's their ball. It's their ball. It's their ball. And then obviously was pleasantly surprised when, as I'm watching it and thinking it looks like it might be out of his hand. But I never we never let them kind of relax and ever think that it was going to be our ball, just because of what we learned from in the past on that.
If Moose is out for however long he's out, I assume Jackson Aker would be the next guy in.
Yeah, Jackson Aker and Katie Giacomelli. I think that our guys, we're going to have to continue to get rolling.
What can you reasonably expect from those two guys right now moving forward?
Well, they're both big and physical guys. I think that obviously Cade is a guy that you've seen a little bit around here. I think that going into the season, a lot of people were talking about him as being the next guy when these two guys maybe were gone. So he's going to get a lot more opportunities to do it. He's just been more of a special teams guy right now. And Jackson Aker's been a guy that's played all over the place. If when we came in, we didn't know what he was going to be. Was he going to be a fullback that maybe you didn't have as much? Was he going to be a tight end? Was he going to move back into the wide receiver spot? Was he going to play at wherever? Heck, we talked about moving over to defense. Not really, but they wouldn't let us. But I think he's a guy that through all of fall camp and things has really kind of honed his running back skills, and I think we'll see a lot more of him.
We'll take one more for you. So CJ Williams, I know you asked about him recently. Just how do you think CJ performed today?
CJ made some big plays tonight. He made some catches and secured some balls, and on 3rd down, he really showed up. I don't know that there was the big, long, exotic run, catches or something. I think Chim had one, and we know that Bryson's had a couple, but there are some really big across the middle throws and catches, and him and Will both are just a couple inches short of breaking that last tackle and turn those things into really big plays. And I'd be remiss, this is Brian's last game with us, and so we had a lot on our shoulders tonight. I didn't tell the guys about, hey, we're going to get this and we're going to do this for Brian. I've only been here 9 months. How long have you been? Year 25. He says it's not me that is driving him out of this thing. He promises that, but we're definitely going to miss him. He's done an amazing job for us here, but he's not going far, so I'm sure he'll be a little bit more of a fan. So thank you, Brian.